Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 658. Releasing January 23 on Shudder is Mother of Flies, a horror drama that tells the story of a young woman dying of cancer who seeks a cure from a witch who harbors a dark past. A film about life and death, blood and dirt, ritual and faith. Mother of Flies also marks the latest film from the Adams family, the filmmaking family from upstate New York, who, with Mother of Flies, dares to open their hearts and souls in a haunting exploration of the shadow of death and the light that comes afterwards. And joining me today is two members of the Adams family, Toby Poser and John Adams. Toby and John, I thank you both very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Matt, for
Yeah,
having us.
we're really excited to talk with you today.
And I, in turn, am very excited to talk to you both. This is a very haunting movie, I got to say, in many aspects. So it's a movie that very much delves into two big matters, life and death, death especially. It's something that I've gotten quite intimate with lately. My sister passed away last year, January, very unexpected, just kind of happened. So it's something that's still kind of raw with me. In fact, funny enough, after I watched your movie, I had a dream that I went back in time and tried to warn people about her death, which I found interesting because I hardly ever have dreams like that. So it's something that's definitely kind of stuck with me. Um, but it's a very personal film for you both because it's a movie that delves into the personal experiences your family had with cancer, kind of like almost, passing on through this mortal coil into the next. But how does that kind of transition to a film about a necromancer, though? Were there different ideas you had about tackling this subject, or was kind of like the idea of having a character like that always being at the front of your mind when delving into this type of subject matter that Mother of Flies has? Toby, if you can answer that for me.
Sure. Well, yeah, since we do have this history in our family, and we talk about it a lot with both humor and power as much as possible. And Zelda too carries the same proclivity, the same genetic syndrome I have. Uh, it just telling our story through the lens of genre cinema was incredibly cathartic. And since we love to build mythologies within our films, really all of them, working with a necromancer seemed perfect since her tools, her tool is manipulating death, and
Hmm.
she and if what is a tumor but a death device? It's something that is also making someone die. So it seemed like this is the perfect connection of how we can marry magic and these themes of life and death through a necromancer. It was incredibly enriching coming up with this mythology and the spells. And in the meanwhile, honoring both the peace and mystery of death, as well as the will to fight it.
John, there's a discussion in the film between yourself and Zelda, who stars in the movie alongside you both, about suicide. How would you like to go about and such? And you give a very kind of descriptive, kind of like, I think the attempt was Guinness World Record attempt of a suicide attempt that will make the the mortuary just hiding chain from afterwards. Um, but that's kind of like real life discussions, right? You guys are very frank in the way you talk about these things. When did that kind of develop as a parenting style between you both, when you kind of both just really frank in the way you discuss these kind of things? Did you find, myself as a parent, I got two boys aged 13 and 10. Did you find that there was just a moment of your parenting life where you just found that discussing these things openly, transparently, is just a much more intimate, effective way of just tackling life's biggest questions as a parent?
I think one of our goals as parents was to be honest with our kids. We've had a past just like everybody else. And I think one of the things that we wanted to do as parents is to be friends with our kids and to have an open line of communication about the complexity of life. So our everything from my drug problems to family issues to just everything, we figured it would just be best to always keep them out in the open, let the kids see as they grew up the realities of life, talk about how we took on the realities of life, like cancer, what it was like, issues like suicide that became very, when I had cancer, I really had, when you get given what you asked about a necromancer. This, I'll try to make this quick, but one of the things about a necromancer is cancer is yourself, the death within you, trying to kill you. But it's you. And that to me is a wonderful symbol, because within us is life and death. And cancer is such an interesting disease because it's you trying to kill yourself. And thus, like, but you're powerless because you can't, your mind doesn't shut off the cancer. You have to find a magic potion to shut off the cancer. That's chemotherapy, that's radiation, it's the magic of science. That is what we're doing, celebrating a necromancer. My doctor was a necromancer. She knew the magic potions of life and death. And in fact, she was trying to kill cancer and kill me at the same time. And whoever died first, the other one won. That's what chemotherapy does. And so it's really a magic philosophical thing. And it is exactly what necromancers were good at, is dancing with death, manipulating death. That's what my doctors did. And so suicide became something, it was the only little bit of power that I had during a time that was beautiful, but incredibly brutal. Chemotherapy, a year of chemotherapy is a brutal time. And it was the only piece of power that I had was, if this is too painful, I could commit suicide. And so I had a relationship with it. And then when I lived, I almost had to undo that relationship with it because I didn't want to commit suicide. But it was a demon that, not a demon, it was a thing that kept haunting me. So I'm giving you a complex answer to a simple question, but these are complex issues, and we invite our kids to join in on them. So as life unfolds, they're prepared with some of the wisdom we've found.
And just to continue on about that wisdom, I think something that people, maybe not all people, but I think something that a lot of people, religious or spiritual, what have you, when it comes to the notion of suffering, is that suffering is not meaningless. A lot of times, suffering can hold immense amount of power just from the experience of going through it. And I imagine going through that suffering, and then coming from the other side of it, would have just changed both your lives in a very, very powerful way.
It's true, and something we also wanted to acknowledge in this film was the person who loves the person who's dying is going through their own incredibly potent journey, you know, because there's something that feels, and Jake's character is representative of this in Mother of Flies. There's something that feels helpless, and Mickey says in the film, "You're alone and I'm alone." They're two very different but powerful journeys, and it was important for us to acknowledge as well the pain and suffering that the person who loves the dying person has to navigate. Yeah.
I want to answer your question too, though, which is about what does a struggle against something like cancer do? Well, for me, it gave me the meaning of life. And we wanted to celebrate that in this movie, is the power of struggle. And it doesn't have to be cancer. This movie is about any tough challenge that you have. It's not just about cancer. It's about anybody who's struggling with anything. And it does give you the meaning of life, individual life, struggling to survive, to holding on to life. And that's a beautiful thing, because when you make it, every minute that you have in your life is vital and important, no matter whether it's painful or beautiful and easy. They're all just vital, and you just are immersed in life after these life and death struggles. And lastly, it's really important when you go through a life and death struggle to have a good relationship with death, to have faith that death is as beautiful as life. Those are the subjects that we wanted to talk about this in this movie, and from a very powerful, positive way. So
And love is always there's always that's always a currency in our films. The more love we have, the darker we tend to go, and vice versa. And I think when you are suffering as someone who's dying or someone who loves someone who is dying, it inevitably shows you how much love is also its own kind of warfare.
Mm.
It's invisible, but it's potent. And for me, that's very much equally, that's on par with the necromancy magic that is happening. That is a real human magic that is important for me in our storytelling. And I think through the suffering, you can't help but realize the love is sort of the meter, the axis from which everything is spinning. Do I want to live? How do I fight it? Do I give up? Do I find peace with it? It's just love is always the strange axis.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you will love. Um, Toby, I wanted to talk about Solvik, the necromancer that you play in the movie. First, I want to talk about the name of the character. Just looking up the meaning of the name, I saw that symbolically it means inner fortitude and resistance, which is suitable for a character who waited centuries for her time to rise. Not to give away too much here, but it's something that does happen with her in the film. Was Solvik always a name that you had in mind for a character all this time, or did you have a list of different names for your necromancer? Really curious about that.
It's such a cool question. We had, when the kids were young, they had a friend, twins, little twins, and their mother's name was Solveig, and she came from a
Mm.
Norwegian family. And I always loved the name. And so I think it was always just like sitting there like a spider in the corner of my brain, waiting for a certain character that would earn her name, and then looking up Googling what the name meant. It seemed perfect because Solveig does have a centuries old patience that I really admire, and she's strong.
She is very strong. Another thing I want to talk about in regards to Solvik is the rituals that she partakes in, the magic. How much of that did you base in any type of real life, I don't know, stories or folklore or witchcraft, or how much was it just something that you guys just kind of just brought to the fore yourself? I'm just really curious about those aspects as well to the character.
It really is just something we come up with, we intuitively. Same with other mythologies and films like with Hellbender, or the magic behind the heart in our film Where the Devil Roams. It's something we enjoy trying to come up with an original take on witchcraft. I think witchcraft, and we know friends who really do identify as Wiccans or witches, and I think so much of that is about intuition, particularly
Hmm.
in regards to nature, which is a huge influence thematically in our film and in Solveig's work, and in her philosophy about life and death and the beauty of rot and ruin and the hope for renewal. Also, when we knew we were coming up with certain spells, we knew that snakes were the perfect symbol in her work. First of all, sometimes they represent evil to many, and Solvig for many is an antagonist or something not to be trusted, or she's something other. But symbolically, the snakes were perfect in her necromancy because they are symbols of regeneration and renewal with the shedding of their skin, and they live
Yeah.
in the crags of the earth like Solvig. And medically, if you think about the symbol of the snake around the staff, so really it was just fun intuition. We were really enjoying playing with her rituals.
John, I want to talk about the visuals in this movie, which is incredibly stunning. You and Zelda just did a great job just capturing so much of this nature you have. And it's hard pressed not to talk about the perhaps one of the biggest characters in this film, which is nature itself. I mean, you have in your backyard a just a playground to play in as filmmakers. And I always love when I talk to independent filmmakers about how a lot of the times in their filmmaking, well, making a movie, they try to look at what resources are at their disposal that they can use. I've spoken to one pair of filmmakers, they had a warehouse, they used that. Another person had like maybe a car, another person had this or that. You guys have the cat skills right there. And I've heard you say in an interview, you know what, like the back of your hand. So when you're choosing your shots, when you're choosing what you want to do visually with this, with the woods behind you, how much of that is just places you've been to before that you've seen at different moments, at lights? How much is do you keep a photo journal, for example? So when a movie does come up, you say, hey, I remember back in September of 2021, I took a shot for you that might be really awesome. How's that all kind of come together visually?
Yeah, we spend so much time out in nature in our woods, and we live in a huge park, so it's just endless woods here, and the Catskills are very cinematically beautiful. So we know everywhere we shoot. If we need caves, we know where the caves are. If we need ferns, we know where they are. We know where the pine trees are. So also we've made now 10 movies, and most of them here in the Catskills. So we even know how the sun, what time the sun is doing, casting a shadow where, and things like that. So now it's just, nature, and the Catskills are our lead actress. Like, and she always brings, she never fails. She can never do wrong. She always acts right because it's nature. And I think the only thing that is required to capture nature is like patience, because nature wants to act at her own timing. And so a lot of the time we sit in the woods and wait for things like clouds or like bugs or shadows. And it's really nice because as you sit there, you let the organicness of the scene that you're about to shoot soak in. And by the time you're shooting, everyone's comfortable and nature does her thing. And we're just really thankful that we have access to what we have access to, and in this one, things like deer, we found a dead Bambi deer, and we wrote a whole scene around it. And then amazingly enough, nature sends out a live Bambi deer a month later so that we can finish the story that we started about the dead deer. So it's really, I think time and patience is the best way to work with nature.
Toby, speaking of nature, we have to talk about flies. Because here in Australia, it's summertime. I've had my gut full of flies. I can't stand flies. They're around all the time. Your performance as Selvig has such a stillness to it, a quality to it. Uh, you can hold the camera with such a never kind of flinching gaze. I found myself sometimes trying to count your blinks whenever you're in discussion, just to see how that kind of hold still. But then when doing so, I'll see a fly land here, a fly land there. I think I found one near your eyeball in one occasion. How do you find that inner patience and strength to just handle the whole thing about flies landing on you? Because right here, like later on today, I'm going to go for a run, and I guarantee I'm going to be swiping at my face at least 10 times. So kudos to you, number one, for your patience, and number two, how do you pull it off?
Thank you. Well, I don't know, in Australia, everything's seems a lot more dangerous. So if I were there, I might be flatting away some flies too. Um, we learned really early on that the flies wanted to be around. And so we decided we need to get comfortable fast with them. And thematically, it just made such sense.
Yeah.
If you think about a fly and maggots, and we thought they are throwing us such massive cues here, even the title of the film. So it just was I think it all comes down to wanting to get the great shot, like anything for art. The problem was, Matt, that if I waited too long, I didn't mind them crawling around on me, but sometimes they would bite. And when they
Right.
would bite, it's not that it hurt so much, but it would leave a mark on me. And we don't use makeup or anything like that. So then for continuity's sake, it would be a hassle. But they showed up ready for the close up, and we really just welcomed them.
But we have to add, one of our favorite movies is Australian, and one of the reasons that it was our favorite movie was because of the flies, the relentlessness of the flies, and it's called The Proposition.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a dirty, dusty, brutal, beautiful, realistic movie filled with flies,
Yeah.
and it had a huge effect on us.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere. Yeah, John Hillcoat, Guy Pearce, great movie. I wanted to talk about in this final question, John, about music. It has such a intimate part of the creative process, especially when it comes to your movies. You score your films as a band, Hellbender. All of you, are in there making the music. I find it interesting though that I read in an interview, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, is that the music sets the tone for the film. Is that correct? Don't you sit around first playing music, coming up with different things, and that kind of sets the tone for what the movie is going to feel like? That's a very kind of interesting way to go about doing that.
Yeah, we when we come up with an idea, so we bang around ideas, a shit ton. And when we come up with one that's simple, where we really understand like the beginning and the end, like this one, it's like, great, now we know what we're gonna do. And we start writing the music and we all kind of talk about it. And I will also say that our movies are generally a reflection of where we are as a family at the moment. And our music is obviously going to be that too, because you can only sing about what you know. And the same is with a movie. You can only make a movie about what you know. But yes, it really does set a tone. And I thought what was fun about this movie was Zelda was really bringing some more emotional, kind of stripped down alternative ideas to the music. And so we were really working a lot on that. And as we started to film, we started to put down the music on the imagery, and it just worked so perfectly. So this one was a really fun one. We didn't struggle too much with the tone of the film, and I think that it really serves the film well. Another thing about the music was we didn't use a lot of it. We wrote maybe 25 songs and we only used 5, right? So like 20 hit the floor. And the reason for that is that, again, nature, our favorite actress, showed up and laid down beautiful sound. The leaves, the bugs, the wind, the river. So this one was a really interesting kind of departure from the sound design of the past. And I really enjoyed doing it. And thanks for asking that.
That being said, considering the intimate process of music and movies in your film, has the notion of a musical, an Adams Family musical, ever come about? And I'm not talking about, singing in the rain or Sound of Music, whatever, but I'm talking about an authentic Adams Family in the Catskills musical kind of thing. I don't know how you. I don't know. You could be like a fictional band or something, and you're writing songs for your next coming album, and you're playing the songs, and that could be the musical. I don't know what, but I think that I know Hellbender came kind of close at times with some of that stuff, but I think it would be pretty cool to see something like that from you guys because I think. Number one, the music's great. I think we have similar kind of music tastes. I love the riffs and stuff that you guys have there, and the tone of it and all. But I think it would be really cool to see something like that from you all because number one, we don't really see that often, which is to the shame of the film industry as a whole. But I think it would just be great to see an Adams Family musical. It could be something cool.
I love the way you think. Number one, again, we love Australian art, and AC/DC is the band that all of this family loves the most. So when you
Mm,
talk about riffs, they are the kings of riffs. But
absolutely.
we
I'll
where
throw Nick Cave in the
yeah, there you go.
I'm
I
a
mean,
massive
right.
fan. I love the idea of what you're saying, and I
Yes.
think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, we kind of touched on it with Where the Devil Roams. We experimented with that idea, but I think that we would really love to do that. But we have to figure out how to come up with it, like as you say, in a clever way, so it's not singing in the rain. So
Mm.
almost you trick people to watch a movie, and then when they're done, they as they're driving home, they were like, "Wait, did we just watch a fucking horror musical?" You know, that would be really great.
Matt, have you seen? I think it's Estonian. Not, I don't think it's Finnish. I think it's Estonian called Chainsaws Are Singing. Have you seen
No,
that?
no, no.
That's a
I wrote it
really
down.
weird kind of campy horror musical. Chainsaws are singing or were singing, and it's really surprising.
I mean, now you
Sounds
really
like
got me spinning. You got the wheels in my skull going. And because you know what you could do is you could have the killer, the antagonist, or it could be the protagonist killer, because that's even more fun, um, have to sing through all of their kills. Like that's their
okay.
get offness. That would be pretty fun. Okay, you got my wheels spinning.
There's
Well,
also something cool though about someone who is dying and the smoke
Singing.
coming out of their
That's even
that's
neat.
very operatic.
Yes, that could be even better. Making a rhythm to the killing.
it
Okay.
could be a duet even. You can have a duet between killer and victim
Oh!
as well.
Even better. Yes. All
We're
right.
we're
I
we're
think
we're
we both
riffing here.
agree
We're
to get
burning.
busy.
We're we're
We're,
we're, we're
yes, right.
killing we're killing it here for sure. But before that does happen, Mother of Flies, I got to say, it's one of your best works. It really is. I'm really kind of astounded by the film, and like I said, like just some of my personal experience with some of these subjects in this film. I think it was a really kind of important film for me to watch. It was like also my sister's death anniversary was only like a week ago. So it was something that's very kind of fresh in my mind. So watching the movie, I think was really a really cool way to tap into some kind of emotions and such. And but on top of that as well, it's just a beautiful looking film. I love the music, I love the performances. Everything in this movie is just fantastic. I think it's one of the best Adams Family compositions released so far. And for everyone out there releasing January 23 on Shudder, watch Mother It Flies. Um, just watch it, adore it, get into it. I cannot recommend it enough, honestly. This is to me a kind of film that could really show the potential of what indie horror movies can be, and I really mean that. And Toby and John, I thank you both very much for your time again, and thank you for your film. And hopefully, we get to see that duet in the future. And when we do, I'd like to talk to you again about it.
Thanks.
You're going to be the first person we thank at the top of those credits. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us today, and beautiful questions. And it's just great to be a part of this community of us all. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.